Oh, welcome back to another episode of Billy Jack's video training. All right, so in this video, I am going to go over this new deal with the buyer's representation agreement. Okay, so in this particular video, I am going to use the short form right here. Okay, so this is, as you know, tomorrow, depending when you see this video, on the 17th is when it's mandatory. Okay, and if you've logged into MLS, in the MLS, it'll make you agree that you will abide by the new NAR rules and all that. Okay, so a few key points that I want to say with this is that remember that this is not a law. Okay, I hear a lot of people saying the new law and this and that. I mean, technically, it's not law. Okay, the Real Estate Commission track is very specific that they are not part of the lawsuit. They're a government agency and they're a government licensing enforcement agency. Okay, so there's no law on that. I do watch all their commission and broker lawyer committee meetings, and they're very adamant about that. Okay, so this is an NAR rule. Okay, so I mean, I guess a lot of agents just say that this is the new law that we have to do. Okay, for me, I don't say that. I just say, these are the new rules that we have to do. Okay, this is part of our national association. Okay, so if you want to explain it that way to buyers, and so as you know, you do have to have this agreement signed before any showings, and that also includes virtual showings. Okay, so even if you are just doing a virtual showing for somebody, it's still considered a showing. All right. So a couple of things. This could be pretty easy. This is just a downloaded form, so it can look real clear on this video. But if you want something easy to be able to share with your people, with your clients or your customers at the time, on the loop, I create. Let me go to mine here. I created a loop here that says buyers reps. Okay. So the way you do is just add loop and then type it in there and then push continue and continue. Don't add the templates. When it's gonna require a name. But when you push continue there, it'll ask you what templates you want and just keep putting continue until you get to this screen. And in this screen, when you first get to it, you're not gonna see anything here. These are gonna be blank. So you just add documents. Okay, when you add the documents, I'll just show you real quick, but I won't add them since they're already in there. It'll be in the buyer's documents, I believe. It gets in the, yeah, see here it is. There's a short form, and then this is the regular one. Okay, the short and regular, so you could just select both and then press copy, and then it'll load them. It'll load them like this. Okay, and then when you get your customer or your client already at the time, their name and email, you can add them in the people. Okay, see right here in the people, add person, you type their name, add their email, and then on roll, buyer. Okay, you add them as a buyer, right? And then when you're gonna share the form, you're gonna after a while you're gonna end up with a very long list. It's gonna show all the people that you have, and you can click on your certain buyer. Okay, so with every buyer you get, you'll add this document again, and then you can have a whole bunch. And then if you do get a house under contract, you can download their specific form. You just right here on the three little dots, download it, and then on your other loop, you upload it. Okay, so it'll be add document, you browse, click here, browse. If you're on a Windows computer, it'll show your files. On the Mac, the same way it'll show your downloaded files and all the access areas, and then you click it to just add it to that particular loop. Okay. All right. So we'll get started with the form here. So on this one, I'm going to go over it not too detailed because then this will be a very winded, long-winded, it'll be a super feature movie. And, we don't really want to do that. Okay. We do cover this pretty extensively in the meetings, but, I know some of you can't make it to the meetings and all that. And then with this video, you can rewind, fast forward, watch it a bunch of times if you need to. Okay. So starting with number one here, this is pretty self-explanatory. Okay. You have your customers, your clients at the time already, because once you're in representation, they are your client, right? Your client already. Without it, they're just a customer. Okay. And then and right here, the broker is the brokerage. Okay, brokerage and broker are the same. Okay, so on this one you would put Exit Realty Central on this one. Okay, so anybody, like if it was Remax or something, they would put Remax or Century 21 or whatever. Okay, that is the brokerage. Okay, the appointments, okay, so that's what it is these. The client appoints a broker as the client's real estate agent, it's, with terms of the agreement. So kind of like attorney, the client appoints their attorney to represent them, okay, something like that, to make it a little easier. The definitions, this is just specifies the definitions of uh, of the form, okay. Now, market area, um, I like to put the county of El Paso. You can put city and county of El Paso, Texas. You can put it like that, but remember the city is in the county. If it's a particular address, like they just want to see one house with you, and we'll get more into that, like why that might be the case. But let's just say that, for just this one part of the video, if they say, I already have an agent or something, or they're not real comfortable with signing this, you could say, you know what, just because I have to have a signed document before I show you the house, we can just put that I'm only your appointed agent for this particular property, this showing, and you can even date it for just that day only. And then once you see them and all that, you can talk to them and say, okay, if we want to continue, I do have to modify the document and extend it to cover the city, or, extend the times or anything like that. Okay. So that's a little bit of a strategy that you can use. People say, I don't want to be in a 6-month agreement with you or anything like that. Okay? So it's that, either address, or you can put city and county of El Paso, or if they just want you to show certain zip codes or whatever. Okay. All right. So the term, that's what it is. It begins on whatever day you're going to show them, or whatever day you enter it into, and it ends 6 months, 3 months, the same day, because remember, let's say if it started today, let's say I got somebody, if it was in the morning today, and I was going to show them at 3 in the afternoon, I could put this agreement begins in today's date and ends at 11:59 on today's date also. You see how that works? So it's literally just for that day, and it ends at 11:59 p.m. So at midnight, this agreement is no longer valid if I put it like that with just one day. And that's how you can explain it too if they kind of start freaking out a little bit. Okay. Now, to circle back to this, um, one thing you can say is whenever they say, well, okay, if we do 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, you can tell them, look, I understand that this can be a little, overwhelming. We kind of barely met. You don't really know me too much. Most people, they're afraid to sign something that quick like that, thinking that they're going to be stuck with you, because there's a lot of weird stories out there. I mean, I'm already hearing a bunch of them and all that, but you can tell them, these contracts, they are they can be canceled. We can, either one of us can terminate them. I say, so if you as the client, I go, you, my client, is not happy, or you feel like you don't want my services anymore, or you feel that I'm not performing to your standards or stuff like that, all you got to do is let me know in writing, which could be an email or even a text message, but something in writing, okay? Something that's recordable, and just say, you know what, I'm going to take a different direction, or I just don't want to work with you no more, or whatever it is. I go, and we'll release you. And say, I'm going to release you. I'm not going to hold you to work with me if you don't want to, because I don't want to work with people that don't want to work with me. I mean, it's simple as that, right? Nobody wants to be around somebody they don't like. And typically, if you explain it like that, they're like, "Oh, okay, that's it's no big deal." But if they do still feel a little uneasy, you can just tell them, "Well, I'll put a very short term, a week, 2 days, whatever." Like it's all workable. You see, so you can always adjust the terms. It's not like they're a 30-year mortgage or something like that. Or I mean, you get it, right? Okay, so that's a little strategy you can do to kind of put them at ease so they can sign this document. Mhm. Now, on the broker obligations, okay, so this is another strategy to use whenever they ask, well, why do you require this? And instead of just saying, well, those are the rules, because I get a lot of agents are the comments I'm hearing, because remember, this is nationwide, so I hear it a lot in Las Cruces too, is the clients are saying, well, why do we have to do this? I mean, I don't get it. Why do we have to sign it just to see houses? I don't even know if I want to buy anything yet. And say, well, this contract protects you too. I go, it's not just for our protection, it's also for your protection. I said, because it displays on here what my obligations are to you, right? I said, so the with the minimum duties required by law, right? I said, so we are licensed through the state, and the state does set uh, the rules on how we have to represent you. I said, it's just like if you go to a lawyer, the lawyer has certain ethic codes and all that stuff to represent their client, right? They can't be gossiping about them, and they have to represent them properly and all that kind of stuff, right? I said, so that's a big thing, that it protects you, and of course, it also protects us as associate brokers, right? Okay, so now when we get to this, the full service and showing services. Okay, so the full service is exactly that, so it's, the full service of a broker, right? To help them find the property, all the showings, help them with negotiations, things like that. Mhm. Showing services, if you check this, they just want you to do showings. Okay, paragraph 6, 7, and 8 do not apply. Okay, if you all remember when I did that little legal reading class, whatever, on how to interpret it stuff. So all these are together, right? 6, 7, and 8 do not apply. So 6, 7, and 8 they don't apply to it, right? I said so all this here. Okay, it won't apply if you're putting just showing services. Okay, so in that case, the broker will provide client with access to the properties in the market area, and the client will pay broker a fee of, and then you can put what you want. Okay, so for an example is maybe an investor, or a person that's flipping houses, or they're very familiar with doing real estate on their own, or maybe they're an agent in another state, right? And they kind of already know, right? Because remember, the Trek forms, they can get them online. They're available for the public. But if somebody that's pretty familiar and they just don't want agent services, they just want somebody to go that opens the doors, right? You can do that. Let's say, for example, would be if an investor says, "Hey, you know what? There's 5 houses. These are foreclosures or whatever. He already has his list, or she, whoever it is. Can you show them to me?" And say, "Well, you know what? I can. It'll be $50 per house. However you want to do it." That's what this would be. Okay, and it's due upon execution of the agreement, which means they need to pay you up front, right? Okay, so that's another, kind of good thing if you find somebody like that, and they say, well, I don't need an agent, I just need somebody to open the door, because there's some people out there, I'm sure some of you might have already experienced that. Okay, so this little added thing here is a little extra way to make some change, some little bit of money on the side there. Okay. Client obligations. This describes what the client is obligated to do. Okay, so this is pretty good to kind of explain to them. It's for their protection. Okay, the client must work exclusively through broker in acquiring the property in the market area. and inform other brokers, sale agents, landlord that the broker exclusively represents the client. Okay, so to sum it up, it's you tell your buyer or your client, you know what, if you see open houses, you're free to go in there. You don't have to call me for every single open house. So you see the signs, you're right there in front of the house. Well, yeah, you can walk in there. I said, but you are obligated to tell these agents that are in there, because there's going to be an agent in there or a seller or the landlord that you're already represented. Okay? Because remember, it's all this is together. Section A, you're working exclusively with me because you all are associate brokers, right? Associates of the broker, right? In acquiring the property. And section B. So all this is together. Okay? All right. So let's see. What else we got? Client for the purpose of acquiring property. Okay. So yeah, I think we pretty much covered all that in here. Okay, for the client obligations. So just a reminder, that is pretty important because there was an incident, and I won't get into detail with the video, but there has been a few incidents that I've already been told from other agents that their buyer walks into an open house, and the buyer doesn't say anything apparently, or the client doesn't say anything to the listing agent, to the other agent, and the other agent ends up helping them and double ending the deal and sells them that house. Okay. And the buyer says, well, I didn't know. I thought you all worked together, or somehow you guys just split the commissions on the side. You know, whether they're lying about it and they're just trying to get out of it, or they really did think that, because I mean, believe me, I hear a lot of it. I hear a lot of pretty crazy stuff that we would think there's no way people think that way, but they probably do, especially if it's their first house. So they don't know. So it is kind of important. Do remind them, kind of tell them this, tell them it's for your protection. I go, and you can use as an example, and you say, it's like if you go, you're involved in a case, a legal case, whether it's like criminal or civil or whatever. Your attorney, if you get a lawyer, the first thing your lawyer is going to say is, don't talk to anybody without me present. Or they give you their card, and they say, if the police talk to you, or another attorney talks to you, show them my card and say, this guy is the one that's representing me. Everything needs to be run by him. He told me not to talk to you. Something like that. I mean, that's like that. They can kind of get a reference on what it is that you're representing. Okay. So kind of say that I am your representation. Okay. So just be careful, and you do have to tell them. Okay. So if you go in, just tell them right away, I already have an agent. I'm just looking, or, I'll let my agent know. Okay. And chances are the agent that's having the open house, they'll still be nice to him, and, kind of let them look around and all that stuff. Well, they should. They should still let them look around. Okay. Now for the broker compensation. Okay. So the broker fees, when earned and payable, the client will pay the broker and complete all that apply. Okay. So, I mean, in reality, you can fill it all in, whether they're purchasing, leasing, or both. Okay. So the first one, the purchases, this is the most common used. 3%, 2%, 5. You say my time is good. I'm charging 8%. Okay. That's up to you. Okay. So, but typically, this one, most common is we're seeing 3%, right? Like just like you've done before. Okay. And the sales price of the sales price, or, and this is if you're going to do a flat fee. Okay. I mean, I have not really seen much of this, of the flat fees. Maybe if it's a very low price house, or something like that. Now, another thing, what you can do too is the flat fee, this one right here, can apply if you're providing very limited service. For example, just helping them fill out the contract, but not doing anything else. Okay, that's kind of like discount brokerage kind of activity. We we're not supposed to do discount kind of services, but for the buyer side, you could if the buyer says, I don't want, I just want somebody to just help me fill out the contract, but you're not actually their agent. Okay. That is a little bit tricky if you are going to get into a situation like that. Typically, it's like 500 bucks, 750, something like that. If you are, if you do come across a situation like that and you don't have much experience, do run it by us, myself or Maria, and we can better guide you with that. Okay. Because we need to that's on a case by case basis, okay? Because sometimes it can be a little bit tricky, and you can get into some legal issues when you cross over into agency or implied agency. Because remember, Texas is an agency state, and you have to be very careful with that kind of stuff. Okay? All right. So the leases, this is the percent of months rent or percent of all the rents. That's usually on commercial. You'll see a lot of that with commercial properties. They're gonna, if they're gonna lease a building or lease a property, you could do it that way. I mean, I don't really see very much of this, of percentage of all the rents, unless you get a big commercial kind of property, something like that. Okay. Um, or this amount of money here. So this is another flat fee right here. Now, do remember this right here, it says complete all the apply. It means section 1 and 2. Okay, so if you're gonna put this part here or this, it's usually one or the other. Okay, it's or, it's not really like and. Okay, so just be careful with that. This can be a little bit confusing if you are gonna get something like that. You can give us a call, run it by us, and we will help you with that because this is pretty rare. Not very often is this part used like that. Okay, um, the flat fee amount if you're showing rentals. Okay, that's really the easiest way to say that. It's very frustrating sometimes you're showing a rental and you're only seeing $25 compensation before when it was displayed on MLS or $50. You're like, "Oh, it's not even worth getting my vehicle to go show that." So this actually works to your benefit and you can charge more. I'll show you this rental or I'll show you 5 rentals or whatever it is, and this is how much I charge, 150, 250, whatever it is, and this is where you would put that. Okay. Now, keep all this in mind, what I was saying here with the fees and all that, because it can change. Okay, there is variables to it. Okay. So section B, earned and payable. The broker's fees are earned when the client enters into a contract to acquire the property in the market area during the term. So it's the term of the contract, right? Broker fees are payable either during the term or after it ends, the comma, which is joining this, okay, upon the earlier of closing of the transaction to acquire the property or the client's breach of contract to acquire the property in the market area. Okay, so client breach of contract, there's a lot of different scenarios. Okay, to not make this video too long-winded, if you do happen to have a breach or something, you will have to have supervisor activity get involved, myself or Maria, so we can see how that will be remedied because that's usually will end up in a civil case. Okay, closing. Okay, means the date the legal title of a property is conveyed to the client or when the client enters a binding lease. Okay? So that's, you all know that when the legal title is conveyed, that's closing, right? And then funded. Yes. Mm. Section C, source of payment. The broker may receive compensation from the seller, landlord, or their agents. Okay, now this, remember I said, keep this in mind. Broker will credit any such compensation towards compensation due to the broker under this agreement, and the client will pay any remaining balance. You see? Okay? So this is what you can explain to them. When you put here, you put, for example, 3%, right? You put that, so you're charging for buyer's side to represent a buyer, 3%. mm, And you could say, look, I understand, it's 3% that I'm charging you for my services. I said, but I can try to negotiate. We can ask the seller through their agent to see if they offer compensation or they can offer. Okay? Because there's some that are already zeros, right before they took it off of MLS. And when you call the agent, sometimes they'll say, well, my buyer can't or my seller can't afford it. They're upside down already, or whatever it is, or they only gave me this listing if I said I'll charge them 3 and give 0 to the buyer. Okay. But you can always submit the offer and negotiate that and ask for it. It's like asking for concessions, right? Or it's asking for, hey, contribute $5,000 to repair the roof, or when you go see the house, you know what, this house needs a lot of painting. The walls are all messed up. Give me, $5,000 credit. That's a concession, right? Concession is anything that the seller will concede to you, right? Concession, okay? So that's the thing. It's negotiable, so you could tell them I can try to ask for it. I'll see if I can get them to uh to provide some of it, right? To credit some of it. And any remaining balance, if they can only do 2%, the listing agent calls you back and says, I talked to my seller, we work the numbers, we can only give you 1.5%, and you say, okay, or I can only give you $5,000 or $2,500, whatever. So then you will have to do a little bit of math here and do that 3% minus whatever they're contributing, and whatever is left, that's what the buyer will have to pay you, okay, upon closing, when your fee is earned and payable. Now, with that in mind, it can go the other way. If you put 2% or 1% and they are offering 3, you already agreed that this is all you'll be paid, 1%. For an example, okay? So with this form, you cannot collect any more than what you already agreed to with your buyer. However, before you freak out, I know you're listening to this saying, "Well, I'm never gonna put that." Okay, if you do put, for example, 3%, and let's say you get there's a listing, it could be a new build, or it can be a house that's been sitting for a long time, and or very motivated seller, whatever the case may be, they might be advertising 5%, say 5% to buyer brokers, super blue light special, right? Okay. So if that's the case, you're not stuck with just this. You can amend it. Okay. You'll have to amend it and get your buyer to sign it again. The whole purpose is disclosure, right? Saying this is what I'm going to be paid. The seller is paying a higher commission for this, and you can amend it. So two couple ways to do it is either you make a new one, right? Because this one's pretty easy to fill out. You could, or you can just edit it. If you have 3% here, you can put the little line through it and then the initials up here. Because remember the dot loop dates it. If you're doing it wet signature, if you take this out in the field with you and you're writing it in hand, you can still do it uh, by hand, but make sure that they do put the dates over here somewhere, okay? Because without dates, let's see right here somewhere. Make sure that they initial and put the dates, okay? Because all that stuff, that's what carries a lot of weight in court proceeding or complaints with the state. Okay. All right. So don't think, well, if I get a higher one, I'm stuck with this lower one. You just need to amend it and change it. Okay. So do keep all that in mind. Escrow authorization, this is pretty self-explanatory. It's that you authorize the escrow agent title officer, right, to collect and disperse the broker amounts. So what that means is, some people say, well, I want to pay my agent directly, or the seller might say, no, I'm not going to give the money to a listing agent. I'm going to directly pay the buying broker myself. Okay, so this is just, you authorize it. Or your buyer might say that, well, I want to hand you the money, you know. So you authorize the escrow agent to be able to pay you. Intermediary, it's it's just that. Just like how we have it on listing agreements, the regular buyer broker agreement that we've always had, intermediary, and then you can read it. I won't go over it every line by line because this will get very winded, but basically it's just, don't disclose, you're not gonna breach their confidentiality without them letting you do it in writing, right? So see, client specifically instructs the broker in writing, all that stuff. So you can read this little carefully here, and then, but you should get the gist of it. Okay. The final thing is, and this is good to explain them too. The broker compensation is not set by law or fixed or controlled or recommended by NAR, MLS. This has always been this way. And everybody that's freaking out about it and you know quitting the business. I've already had several agents tell me that they're quitting and that this is crazy and all that, but this has always been the case. There's no you have to charge 6% or you have to, I mean, the brokerages can set their fees, right? But a lot of people think, well, all brokerages have to charge 6 or 5, whatever it is, but it's never been set by law or it's never been mandatory. It's always been negotiable. I mean, those of you who've had closings that you've had to reduce your commission just to get a listing or to close a deal or whatever, you're negotiating right there. That is part of the negotiation. It's not like, well, no, I'm not lowering my commission. You don't close, too bad. Then nobody gets paid, right? That's the whole point. Just like home prices, the commissions are negotiable, okay? But, there is limits to it too, all right? So that's really it for this, and you have. Oh, well, I'll go over this part real quick. The broker's printed name is the brokerage, just like the top. Okay, the brokerage. Okay, license number, you can look it up on Trek, and then you'll have the license number to the office. Okay, it starts with like a 9, it's 988 something. It's kind of embarrassing. I can't remember my own office license number. Okay, but I still have to always look it up. But anyways, that's what it is. Okay, so you put that there. Um, Not Maria's name and not mine. Okay, it's the brokerage name. Okay, brokers or associate signature, you will check this box. You'll check this because remember what I said. You are a broker associate. Okay, um, and then your name goes right here. Okay, broker associate name, if applicable. That's if the broker is doing it, then it's broker. For example, if it was Maria doing it, brokerage name, Exit Realty, license number, then her name right here, and then that's it. She won't check this box. Okay, but you guys, Exit Realty, check the box, your name, the date, and then this is your signature. I mean, okay, your signature right here, and then your printed name right here, and then your license number right here. And the same thing, client's printed name, then signature, and then, if they have another person there. Okay, and just noticed that it's still showing Century 21. The zip forms haven't updated in over a decade. Okay, but anyways, all right. So I hopefully this helps you. It's not hard. Okay, the short form is very nice that they did it this way, so it's less intimidating than the very long buyer's rep form. All right. Um, it will take a little bit of time for people to start getting used to it. If it's somebody that's barely starting their home search, they won't know the difference, really. So I had the same bad issues, the same fights with people. Well, not really fights, but discussions with people with the inspection contracts. I mean, just think you're gonna hire an inspector and you gotta sign a 3-page form that's issued by the state, and some people like, why? It's I'm just hiring you to do an inspection. Come on. But I have to have that before I can even go in the house too to do it. And I've canceled a lot of services. I don't show up to the inspection because people won't sign it, or they forget or whatever, and I'm not going to waste my time, and they learn the hard way. But I am very strict with that, so it's what it is, okay? It's for my protection and for theirs too, but for the inspections, it's the same thing. It tells what the obligations are, what the client's obligation is, and all that. Same with this, okay? So it'll take a little bit, it's a little bit of an extra step to do, but it really does protect you better, okay? It sets your fees up. It gives you more leeway if you want to do just one showing and charge a flat fee for it. If they say, well, my brother's an agent, or, my agent's out of town right now. That's a big one. Okay, my agent's out of town. I just need to see the house. Can somebody just show it to me? And they're out there wasting Realtor.com leads or just going down the list calling. And you can say, well, yeah, I'll be happy to show it to you, especially, even if you already have an agent, that's fine. I'll just open the door. And after that, that's it. But I charge $150, or $50 or whatever you want to do, and some people might go for it, it just depends, but at least, you're not going to waste your time. So once you learn how to leverage this, it can be a real good thing for you. Okay. All right. So that is it for this one. I think I covered it fairly good. If you have any questions or it's a little bit confusing or this video was confusing, do let me know. I do like feedback, whether it's good or bad feedback. Everything, any feedback is good for improvement. And that's it. Hopefully it helps you, and we'll see you on the next one. All right.